All right, we're just a few short weeks away from the Fallout TV show dropping April 11th. All the episodes are going to be out that day. We'll be talking about it then. I'm recording this video way in advance because by the time it goes out, I'll be away on a mini vacation. So I'm recording this right now on March 9th. It's possible between now and when the video goes live that perhaps there's some previews or impressions that go out, because I did see YouTubers and press were at an event where they rebuilt one of the towns from the trailer for people to visit. So I imagine they saw episodes early and we'll see content on that. And we'll talk about that when I get back or before this video even drops. Nonetheless, though, I wanted to make this video as I typically like to do these expectation videos because I typically make them in the dark. I make them when I know nothing from impressions all the way to just what the official material has shown us. And I talk about what I'm going to hope the show gives us, or most cases, the game gives us. And I'd love to hear from you on that front as well. So this is just a video that's been made in the dark with my hopes, dreams, and expectations all in one. So let's begin, shall we? But before any of that, we got to talk about today's sponsor. The following video is sponsored by BetterHelp. One of my favorite fighters in the UFC is Dustin Poirier, who came off an incredible victory in UFC 299, and he spoke about his last fight where he lost in spectacular fashion and how it really led to a ton of mental struggles for him. And it was a reminder to me of what first brought me to therapy in the first place. I was struggling for many years of my life and not sure what to do with all these emotions I was feeling, and I was losing hope. It wasn't until I saw people on massive platforms who had the fame, the fortune, everything you could ask for, sitting there and saying they were struggling too. I don't want other people to suffer, but there was a comfort in knowing I wasn't alone in this battle, and it didn't matter what your status was in society, people were still struggling. And that is why I always like to share my story with anxiety and depression. It's why I'm here to tell you about BetterHelp. They give you a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice by going through the site in my link in the description down below, which is betterhelp.com/MrMattyPlays. You can match with a professional after answering a few questions and start learning more about the struggles you're facing. It's all about comfort, whether you want a message, phone call, video chat, whatever you need, BetterHelp is going to accommodate you. So let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you from the comfort of your own home. Visit my link in the description down below, betterhelp.com/MrMattyPlays, or when signing up, click channel name MrMattyPlays and enjoy a special discount during your first month. Thank you again to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. First things first, you gotta make all the factions competitive. By that I mean, I look at Fallout 4 and I think it did a pretty good job of when you line up the Institute against the Brotherhood of Steel. These are two strong opposing forces that I think have their own compelling reasons for the player, depending on how they want to roleplay, to want to align with one or the other. You kind of see the problem with both their approach, kind of like as the trailer said, everyone wants to save the world, they just disagree on how. I think that's a perfect line to describe all these various factions in Fallout. So that gives me a little bit of hope for the TV show nonetheless. But when it comes to these factions, they all operate under that similar philosophy, right? And Fallout 4's problem is that there were factions like the Minutemen and the Railroad, which had their purpose, but they didn't feel as strong or as competitive. And it was more about whether or not the player aligned with them on an ideological level, which I think matters a lot. But I look at New Vegas as a pretty strong example of when you view something like, hey, you have the Legion if you're feeling barbaric in this playthrough, kind of getting the job done no matter what, or the NCR if you want more law and order, or the Brotherhood. There's different ways to go about the Battle of the Hoover Dam ultimately, and I think that does a good job of leveling the playing field where everyone is strong and competing for the same thing. And then of course there's like the yes man ending, and so you have this whole separate option that you can do. It's all extremely compelling, right? And Fallout 3, on the other hand, is really about a classic Brotherhood of Steel versus Enclave storyline here. And I feel like as the years have gone on, you look at Fallout 4, you look at Fallout 76, now you look at this TV show, and I made a joke about it in my impressions on the second trailer for the Fallout TV show that Bethesda's got a hard-on for the Brotherhood of Steel. And I really hope when it comes to this show, I think they did a good job depicting them and how they were originally presented in like Fallout 1 and 2, and continuing that in 4, where in 3 they were more just like the knights in shining armor. I like how they shifted them in 4, but that's not enough. I feel like Bethesda is lagging behind on making other factions surrounding the Brotherhood equally as powerful. You know, like I think Bethesda loves the power armor because it's something that's really synonymous with Fallout, but I feel something equally as synonymous is the Desert Ranger outfit, for example. And so I just feel when I see the NCR all these years later, seemingly in complete shambles, we'll see if they rebuild throughout the TV show. But to me, it's a a little bit frightening already to see, like, all right, here comes the dominant Brotherhood of Steel, potentially even attacking the NCR, which depicts them more as villain characters. And I hope that presents a bit of a moral quandary where, like, the Brotherhood of Steel, much like in Fallout 4, they have all of this force, all of this authority, and they're coming in strong, but maybe you don't align with their beliefs and their approach, and you go with something like the Railroad. So I just hope they make these factions competitive, and I really hope they restore the NCR in some way, shape, or form, because to have the slate wiped clean after they came so far, especially in Fallout 2, you look at Fallout 1 and Shady Sands, and you look at it in Fallout 2, it's just a complete difference, right? You look at New Vegas, and it felt like people were fighting for new beliefs, and to wipe that out, I'm not trying to be that Fallout lore guy, but it is a little concerning if it's all being done to again establish the Brotherhood of Steel as this dominant faction. They are phenomenal. They are just not the only one. So that is, if anything, my big worry stepping into the mix here is, how do you represent the remaining factions? I know you have no problem representing the Brotherhood of Steel well. What about the rest of them? So it's exploring other facets of the world typically unseen as well. This is the benefit of television that maybe something the games either failed to do or missed an opportunity to do. For example, I think of the pre-war segment in Fallout 4. That was a missed opportunity. I know the original plan from Bethesda Game Studios, as they confirmed, was to have a much longer prologue section, and I think that would have been really great, frankly. But they didn't do that. They had it be a little snapshot of what life was like, and then you quickly jump into the post-apocalyptic part, which I understand, because there is the argument you can make that, hey, if the intro is too long, then you have a problem when you try to replay the game, which we all have done with multiple BGS games. So I get why they maybe wanted to shorten it up a little bit, but I think something the length of Fallout 3's opening was never a problem, and I think they could have replicated that same magic with 4 if they stuck to their guns and made something that took you to the park like originally planned, and you spent time with your family, you developed that connection. I felt it was more important to the main story. I say all that because that missed opportunity makes me hope that we spend a good deal of time with the pre-war. We already know the Ghoul character, Cooper Howard. He seems to be a big representative of the pre-war era. We saw him in like Vault Tech commercials. We've seen him on the Radiation King television doing like Wild West movies and whatnot. We see the bombs falling, and it's like multiple nukes, not just one, which is typically how the games depicted them. So they already are kind of course correcting in a way that I think is more healthy for the accurate representation of what happens there. And I see all those things and I go, okay, hopefully this isn't just a 1 or 2 episode thing. See, I'm not like one of those Fallout fans where there are some people who say, oh, make a whole game about the resource wars. I'm like, that's pretty much like a Call of Duty campaign at that point. Like, you're removing too much of what makes Fallout special outside of the lore and the context of the events. You're removing what makes Fallout special, which is that post-apocalyptic setting. But I think dipping our toe more frequently into the pre-war setting would be great. I thought the Memory Den in Fallout 4 was another opportunity to do something kind of cool with that, playing with different areas and locales and time periods in Fallout. I feel like we just don't get to see enough of that. Since we're retreading a lot of potentially old ground in Fallout here, I also hope that they take the liberty of revisiting past locations. We saw the remnants of Shady Sands, and I'm hoping we see like the junkyard. I want to know what's happening with all these locations when it comes to Fallout 1 and 2. You know, we're right there in that ballpark. Fallout New Vegas, like, this show should be loaded with Easter eggs from those 3 games, or nods or connections on a deeper level. So I'm really hoping they pull out the stops for that one and explore the facets that we're always wondering what's next in Fallout and what's happening over there while this is happening. And I feel this is a really good opportunity to answer, hey, these things that were happening on the West Coast were ongoing while you were doing this in Fallout 3. Like, if they can timestamp some stuff, that would be really cool for those who like to dive deep and show a level of like thorough plot design. I also hope they know their ending. That is, I really think the Star Wars sequel trilogy was a valuable lesson to all of us, even if like you're a defender of it. Like, I'm a defender of Force Awakens. Like, I thought that was a really good movie, but you can tell the vision wasn't there and it was disconnected because there were multiple directors. We know that Jonathan Nolan is directing the first few episodes of the show. Afterwards, as of this moment in time when I'm recording this, we don't know who else is going to be directing different episodes throughout the show. And we need a cohesive vision here, because this is either going to be considered for Fallout 5 in a meaningful way, or even set up Fallout 5. I just hope that there is an ending here that they know they want to pursue, and it's not just like, hey, this would be a great season 1 and we'll figure out season 2 later. It's like, I really hope they truly know the ending and that this is shared across all directors of, this is our narrative North Star. Like, this is not a forever TV show. This is not one you put filler out there for. Like, you are building toward this moment, and it's there. The baton is passed to the next product. I really hope that is where they're going. And I know that's a tough ask. We're talking about Amazon, we're talking about money, we're talking about television, we're talking about Hollywood, we're talking about Bethesda. Like, there's a lot of people who win here if this show is good and makes a lot of money and keeps going on. But I hope, out of respect for the creative process and the future of a very wonderful franchise, they know their ending. The goal should be to make meaningful connections to the games, not to replace them, and the consistency among multiple directors should be the priority here, so that you can build up to a wonderful ending that makes you go, wow. And remember when they set up in a TV show Fallout 5, or maybe they have something completely different in mind. I know they already said for their show, like, we're technically Fallout 5. Now, look, you are a story in this timeline. You are not Fallout 5, my friend. I will make that much clear. And one of the last things here is, for the love of God, start involving other people who are deeply connected to this franchise in. I don't like how Bethesda's kind of been raising the barrier higher and higher. What I mean by this is, like, Ron Perlman. As of right now, we have not had a confirmation that Ron Perlman, the fact that he wasn't in Fallout 4 in the introduction, I know he was the man who was doing the news reporting when the bomb started to fall, and that was a good fit, but who made that call to pull him off of his iconic role, to have him be a side role? Have this man introduce the TV show.
War never changes.
He's not going to be around forever. No one is. I feel like not involving someone who's there since the very first game to go around is a foolish mistake. And I hope they include other characters, other actors, like getting Eric Todd Dellums as Three Dog, just hearing his voice over a radio that somehow is reaching from maybe the East Coast to the West Coast. Maybe Three Dog in all those years between Fallout 3 and this show moved to the West Coast, and you just hear him. Like, these little things, we should get these characters involved. Are we going to see Harold potentially? Like, who are these characters we can see involved that have a lot of roots established in the Fallout franchise? Can we see members of the Enclave, like a callback to that scene in Fallout 2 where one of the sergeants gets really pissed off on the phone and starts cursing his brains out? Arguably a top 5 moment in the Fallout franchise for me. I just hope they make these really deep cut callbacks, and it's really going to speak to, at the end of it all, the reason a TV show is, I think, a dangerous play. It's not even like, oh, this can go south, this can suck. It's more like this is going to shine a light on how broad Bethesda's knowledge is on the Fallout franchise. I say that because they're not setting it in what I call home territory. Bethesda Game Studios has only worked on Fallout games in the East Coast, and I think they've built off this stuff established in the West Coast well enough. But this is the first time, when you really look at it, outside of New Vegas, which was all Obsidian, who is primarily consisting of talent that worked on the original 2 Fallout games. That's how they earned the right to do a Fallout New Vegas. Bethesda's never touched the NCR. Bethesda's never really touched the Legion. Bethesda's never touched any of these pre-established factions. So this is a pretty pivotal moment for them. And I don't know if I've really connected those dots until this moment in time. But it's really important that when you bring back some of these major players in the Fallout world and how you plan to do that, like, all I'm saying, man, all I'm saying at the end of the day is, Bethesda, this is a big test for you, and I hope you pass with flying colors, because I have not been one of those lore Bible beaters, as I've talked about for years on this channel. I never have. Do I like consistency? Absolutely, above all else. But do I lose my mind when I think there was like a T50 or T4? There was a level of power armor that was available in Nuka World that was not consistent with the lore of Fallout. It should have been available somewhere else instead of it was one of those moments where I was like, okay, I can look past that. But when it comes to storytelling now, I think the pressure's on. And why is the pressure on? Because the visuals have been nailed. I think when you look at the set design, the costume design, the props, I haven't seen anything out of place that I go like, why is a Humvee on set here? Kind of like you did with Halo. I like that so far. Everything I've seen feels true to world. It feels like they've really captured the setting and the props and the world well. But Bethesda's always had a good connection with that, because what are they good at? Environmental design, world design. And so I trust that that's going to be done really well. But yeah, there's no denying that, like, now the pressure's on for the storytelling. And I feel like Bethesda has the chops to get the job done. I know many people feel differently about that, but I enjoyed Fallout 4's main story. I even enjoyed Starfield's main story a lot. I enjoyed some of the quests there. So I think the storytelling chops are there. I know it's not all on them. I hope that with this fresh perspective, some new air is breathed into the Fallout IP. We'll see how it all goes, but I just really hope, as you can tell, my worry above all else is how they're going to manage these other factions within the Fallout world and make them exciting and interesting, how they're going to balance all of this in what is really their first rodeo with a lot of these factions. I mean, the biggest nod we got toward New Vegas was actually in a Fallout 4 quest line with the Cabinet House, where they mentioned some things happening on the West Coast. And I feel like otherwise that was significant because we thought that was setting up like New Vegas too. But otherwise, we never really heard from Bethesda about much West Coast activity. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this is a pretty big undertaking. Reality's hitting me a little bit, and I'm excited, but also a little nervous because I feel like the stakes are high, and it's not even like I get a week to digest per episode. It's like, oh, I get all 8 at once. Here we go. So let's hope it's a home run, y'all. These are just my thoughts going into the Fallout TV show right now. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts down below. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.